So we have some major updates when it comes to Xbox and all of their marketing that's going around. We have some major growth within Microsoft in gaming, and we also have some declines from year-over-year sales. There's a lot of information here, a lot of executives, including Satya Nadella, talking about Microsoft and Xbox and how it's their best-selling console they've ever had, ever. Let's get into all the details because there's a lot to talk about here, so let's get into everything. Alright, so you know the drill. If you like the content, hit that subscribe button and that like button. And if you want to be notified on future videos, hit that small little bell icon. And if you want to go that extra mile to support the channel, hit that join button. All the support is greatly appreciated. Alright, so we all know that Xbox is probably having their best generation we have ever seen. And how could they not be? They brought out the most powerful console in the industry, they brought out one of the best prices in the industry, and they've brought out Game Pass. A lot of things that have been going Xbox's way. And it's all been centered around us, the gamers. They've made that completely transparent. Everything they're doing surrounds us. And this is even after 2022, which has been a pretty lame year when you look at the exclusives from Xbox's side. And overall, I knew that Xbox was going to have some declining numbers because not only is the pandemic kind of coming around and people are starting to go outside more, but also Xbox doesn't have a lot of first-party content to drop, which helps boost revenue and puts up their numbers within the marketing sales. So I just want to jump into everything that's being talked about and everything that's being said. And let's get into the straight numbers first. Here's what's said in the article and what's being reported directly from Microsoft and Xbox. Xbox gaming revenue dropped 7% in June quarter. Xbox Game Pass continues to grow. Microsoft has released its earnings report for the fourth quarter of 2022 fiscal year, which ended in June 2022. Xbox gaming revenue decreased 7% or $259 million year over year. This was due to a drop in Xbox content and services and Xbox hardware. This is in line with Microsoft expected for the quarter. Despite the drop in Xbox gaming revenue, this is the second best fourth quarter ever for Xbox. Xbox hardware revenue did drop 11%. Xbox content and services revenue decreased 6%. This was due to lower engagement hours and monetization in third-party and first-party content. This was partially offset by growth in number of Xbox Game Pass subscriptions. Now, that's where I want to stop, because this is where we have to look at everything. Third-party games have not been dropping. First-party games have not been dropping. It seems that a lot of the industry is kind of in the standstill. If you look at Ubisoft, they've only brought out Rainbow Six Extraction and pretty much the Valhalla DLC in Ragnarok. After that, they don't have anything coming out minus Skull Bones, which I don't think they have a lot of faith in. So Ubisoft as a publisher hasn't brought out a lot of games. EA as a publisher hasn't brought out a lot of content. And then now you look at Xbox as a publisher, they haven't brought out any content for the first party. The only people that have been bringing out stuff is truly Sony's PlayStation. They brought out a bunch of first party games and they're continuing to do that next month and into the end of the year. Yet overall, they haven't talked about their sales, they haven't reported, and they don't talk about any of these big games and how much they've sold. Usually they're yelling from the rooftops. So have the sales gone down? Is it starting to look like gaming is hitting that ceiling that they've been talking about for a while? That the pandemic pushed them several years into the future where the revenue and the growth and the user growth grew exponentially. Phil Spencer has talked about this, and a lot of other executives have mentioned that the gaming revenue has jumped exponentially because of the pandemic. Maybe that's coming down a little bit, but overall, it's insane to think that Xbox Game Pass can mitigate some of the third-party and first-party content when it's not dropping. That's what Xbox foresaw, and that's what they wanted to do. And let's get into the numbers again. Overall, Microsoft reported revenue up 12% year over year to $51.9 billion and net income up 2% to $16.7 billion. The latest VG charts estimates put Xbox Series X and S sell through at 15.79 million units as of July 16, 2022. The Xbox Series X and S continues to be the best-selling Xbox console generation ever, as it is tracking ahead of the original Xbox, Xbox 360, and Xbox One. We all know the history with the Xbox One. We knew that the Xbox Series X and S was going to outsell it and be a far better generation because you can't get any worse than the Xbox One generation. That was a terrible launch. It was a terrible console, and to be honest, it took a lot of hard work from them to bring out the Xbox One S and of course the Xbox One X, which were awesome consoles. They took a lot of time to make the hardware stand out and then start bringing in the software, which is the Xbox Game Pass and all the other games that they're trying to drop. That's what Xbox focused on, was making the hardware hardware better. And that's what they did exactly with the Xbox Series X and S. As you can tell, this is the best generation they've ever had. Everybody can see that. It's pretty obvious to see. And it's even more obvious for Satya Nadella, Microsoft CEO, to see that. Here's what he had to say about the whole thing. Xbox Series X and S remain Xbox's fastest selling console ever. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella says they've sold more consoles live to date than any previous generation. Last year, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella announced at the company's full-year earnings call that the Xbox Series X and S were the fastest-selling consoles in Xbox history. Now, a year later, and nearly 2 years into the console's lifecycle, he's affirmed this continues to be true. While this sounds a bit obvious, what Satya really is saying here is that sales of the newest Xbox consoles haven't really slowed down significantly since they launched, at least not compared to past Xbox consoles. His exact words were that Microsoft has sold more consoles live to date than any previous generation of Xbox. So almost 2 years in, none of the other Xboxes had sold as many units as the current generation. And I don't know about you, but to me it seems pretty obvious that that was going to happen. We all know that Satya has backed Xbox. We all know that a lot of people love to see what Xbox has to do, and that's Satya's thing. He's been all in on what Xbox has to offer because he does have faith in Xbox Game Pass. He understands that it's a constant revenue stream, that it can stabilize the market, and it can stabilize Xbox's investment into their first-party studios. And that's the other thing that people aren't looking at. If Satya and Microsoft didn't have faith in what Phil Spencer and the Xbox team was doing, he would not have bought Bethesda, and he definitely would not have spent $70 billion on Activision Blizzard to bring first-party games into PC and the Xbox console. That's what's going to be going down for a long time now. Xbox is going to be expanding. The revenue is not going to do anything but go up. I understand the decline. The pandemic has kind of slowed things down. Everybody's starting to go outside. People have become a little bit more lenient of going out, and so you know what? They're not inside playing video games. I think that whole thing is going to be going downhill for a little while now. I mean, even my channel as a YouTube channel jumped up by like 20,000 subscribers because of the pandemic. Everybody was inside, everybody was bored, so they were watching content, and they were watching my content and a bunch of my friends' content on YouTube. But overall, I do have to say that the decline in the people playing games, the decline of people starting to go outside is going to affect the console sales. I want to see what Sony reports. I'm sure they're selling like crazy, but I want to see what their first party is doing. I want to see what their revenue stream is doing. I'm sure they're growing like crazy just like Xbox, but overall, it probably went down a little bit. And that's why they're trying to drop so many games on PC, because they want to keep that revenue stream going up like it did in the pandemic. But they don't have something like Xbox Game Pass to fall back on. That's something that could happen over time. I'm sure they'll start to copy that, and I'm sure that's something that's going to happen. And let's also get into what Satya had to say last year when he talked about being all in on gaming. Alongside this news, Satya reiterated the company's recent commitment to being all in on gaming, something he said in June alongside the announcement that the company would work with global TV manufacturers to embed Xbox gaming directly into internet-connected TVs. Can you see the whole trend here? Since last year and since pretty much Phil Spencer has taken over, Satya and Microsoft are all in on this gaming thing. They're all in on Xbox, and I'm expecting to see revenue jump up exponentially next year when they get Activision Blizzard. They're starting to trend into that because you got to look at all the profits that Activision Blizzard makes, and then that's going to be folded into Xbox, and it's going to be folded into Microsoft. So they're going to start competing with people like Nintendo and Sony, who are pretty much the front runners of what gaming revenue can be. They have the top market. They are the ones that everybody wants to beat, and they're the ones Xbox right now is currently fighting with, along with Tencent, Amazon, and all the other people trying to get into gaming. So don't get me wrong, the revenue might have been down, but overall, Game Pass has mitigated a lot of the damage, and that's something that is good for gamers because they're just going to double down on Game Pass and move forward with what's going to happen. And there's also this. For the last 3 quarters, if not 4 quarters, Xbox has outsold the PlayStation 5. Yeah, they've outsold the PlayStation 5 the last 3 quarters or 4 quarters, which is insane. That never happened last generation. This happened in North America, of course. It wasn't worldwide, but in North America, Xbox has dominated. And I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to see the competition, and I want to see what PlayStation 5 has. I want to see what their sales numbers are, and I want to see how far ahead they are. I think it's about 4 to 5 million units, but overall, they're pushing consoles out there like crazy. They aren't selling out like everybody thought they were. I'm sure people are still trying to grab some, but I think it's starting to become far more available, and Xbox is keeping up with the demand. So let me know what you think about all this. Are you surprised by Xbox's numbers? Did you think that the revenue was going to be higher than it was? Are you surprised that Xbox outsold the PlayStation 5 3 quarters years in a row now in North America? Or do you think that the supply chains and the semiconductor chain has hurt PlayStation more than it's hurt Xbox? And do you think the Xbox Series S is a huge reason why people are going to Xbox? Go down below and let me know. And I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please hit that subscribe button and that like button. The support helps out the channel more than you know. And give me a follow on Twitter at Zocker87. I'm always on there talking games and sharing my latest videos. Plus, I love interacting with everyone there, so get on Twitter and let's talk about gaming. Also, follow me on Xbox Live. My gamer tag is Zocker87, just like my channel name. See what games I'm playing, and let's compete in achievements for the month. So right now, I've been jumping into a bunch of games. I just finished the Forza Horizon Hot Wheels DLC. That was a lot of fun. I feel like something was missing in it though. It didn't feel like a Forza Horizon game. I know there was a bunch of open world activities you can do, but usually you just do a bunch of races, you go from A to B and you have a good time, and you do a bunch of the other stuff around the world. But in this one, it was like drive from one destination to another in 2 minutes, and it doesn't really guide you of where to go. I don't know, it felt a little pain point to me. I didn't enjoy that all that much, but overall it was beautiful, and I love the map and I love the DLC, but I feel like they could have tweaked some things to make it a little more accessible to people that are used to Horizon's gameplay. And from there, I jumped into As Dusk Falls. I beat that game, finished the whole thing. Man, that game is insane. I love the story outcomes. I love the story behind it, the characters, everything about it just seemed a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to the next one if they make a next one, because so far I enjoyed that game thoroughly. I really recommend everybody check it out. It's on Game Pass. So yeah, now I'm jumping into Batman Arkham Knight. I beat this game on my old PC because on the Xbox Series X, there's no update to it. It's 30 frames at 900p, which kind of hurts your eyes. So I'm playing this on my new PC and I'm having a lot of fun with it. It looks insane on 4K at like 120 frames. The game is about 7 years old, so it runs beautifully on there. It's optimized beautifully. So I really recommend everybody check that game out if you haven't, especially since Gotham Knights is coming. So I'm jumping into Batman and having a good time. But let me know what you're playing. Are you playing something on your Xbox? Are you playing something on your PS5 or your PC? Let me know down below, because that's what we're here for. It's Talk Games. And that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and until next time, remember, enjoy your gaming. Later.